The 1928 New Zealand general election was held on the 13th and 14th of November 1928 to elect a total of 80 MPs to the 23rd session of the New Zealand Parliament. Following on from the last election, Prime Minister Gordon Coates and his Reform Party were riding high after winning the largest ever majority in New Zealand history. Coates' government set about implementing his promises made during the election, particularly around developing the rural economy in terms of building more roads, bridges and railways. Coates slashed immigration and passed the Family Allowances Act, which provided the payment of a means-tested benefit to families with more than 2 children whose breadwinners earn less than £4 a week. Coates also increased New Zealand's role in imperial defence, undertook strides to complete all public works schemes already underway and gradually reduced overseas borrowing. Coates also set up a royal commission on Māori land confiscations known as the Sim Commission. The Sim Commission looked into historic land confiscations, which was the cause of much bitterness amongst Māori. Coates was a busy man and was also the first Prime Minister to make a name for himself on the wider world stage. Coates was seen as a key player at the 1926 Imperial Conference in London and made headlines for his staunch opposition to the Balfour Declaration, which declared New Zealand and the other dominions as autonomous communities within the British Empire with equal status. En route back to New Zealand, he visited Canada and the United States, meeting with President Calvin Coolidge, the first time a Kiwi PM would meet a US president. During this time, the Labour Party became the official opposition in Parliament after the party won a by-election in 1926. Following the victory, Labour would hold 12 seats to the Liberals' 11. Harry Holland now became leader of the opposition. Speaking of the Liberals, the party was collapsing. They were now an irrelevant party with no core voter base and no money. While things started well for Coates, the sheer scale of his victory would later turn into a difficulty on its own, as Coates found it difficult to live up to the high expectations of him. Contrary to the decisiveness promised on the campaign, Coates dithered. As to his cabinet reshuffle, a somewhat sentimental man, he was reluctant to fire underperforming ministers. By 1927, serious problems were mounting. Export prices for meat, wool and butter were falling, resulting in the country being in a trade deficit. The problem was spreading as lower profits from producers was causing unemployment to rise steadily. Coates' government came under attack in the House by the opposition, particularly over unemployment. At the same time, there was also internal division among the Reform Party organisation over direction and policy. Reform's campaign manager, Albert Davey, left the party and formed a new political party, the United Party. Financed and supported by various groups disaffected from Reform, United would gain more traction when the decaying Liberal Party merged with United. Like Lazarus, former Liberal Prime Minister Sir Joseph Ward would rise from the political grave to become the leader of the United Party. Ward was ecstatic to have won the leadership after 9 years in the political wilderness. However, he was a somewhat awkward fit for the new party, as Ward was still an adherent to traditional liberalism, whilst the many adherents to the new party were right-wing free marketeers formally linked with the Reform. When Parliament was dissolved in October 1928, the election appeared to be a three-way race. However, Coates hoped his large majority would help shield the party from sizable swings against them. Despite the unpopularity of his government, Coates was still a popular figure and attracted large crowds of supporters. Labour, on the other hand, had a lacklustre campaign and had no new exciting policies. One of the biggest moments of the campaign that grabbed lines was during a large United Party rally. Joe Ward made the startling promise to borrow £70 million, equivalent to nearly $7 billion today, in 1 year to fund an ambitious public works program. Ward, who was in declining health, had misread his speech notes. He meant to say £70 million over 10 years, but voters embraced this proposal as a bold developmental vision. In the final days of the campaign, it was looking like Coates would retain government by the skin of his teeth. And the winner was, in one of the most shocking comebacks in political history, Joe Ward and his United Party won, winning 27 seats, a gain of 16 and 29% of the popular vote. After a long time in the wilderness, Ward was back as Prime Minister, 16 years after he last held the job. However, he would only form a minority government and would rely on the support of independents to hold a plurality in Parliament. The Reform Party also won 27 seats, a loss of 28 since the last election. However, the party won the popular vote, winning 34% of the vote. Coates would stay on as leader and become leader of the opposition. Labour would win 19 seats, a gain of 7, and 26% of the vote. Labour would lose the official opposition status and would reluctantly support the united government on confidence and supply. 6 independents were elected, one of note being Harold Rushworth of the Country Party, who won the Bay of Islands seat of Reform on the back of rural dissatisfaction with Reform. Thanks for watching and come back next time for the